Reporting. Reporting is kind of the core of Echo. I mean, of course, the core of Echo is doing the conversations, but reporting is really where it all comes together for you to be able to understand what your organization is accomplishing, where the gaps are, and bringing that all together. A few weeks ago, we released a totally new system of how Echo works, and we called that project the Conversation Unification Project. And it was a lot of under-the-hood changes that were made to Echo. And today, what I'm going to talk through is just how that affected reporting and just kind of walk through some of the reports you can now get as part of this new update. So let me show you my screen, and I'll show you some things that we can do inside of Echo now. So I'm just logged in as a demo account, so there's not a lot of data here for me to show you, but I think the principles remain the same. For those of you that are already familiar with Echo, let me start with the big change that happened as a part of this update. And that's that now every single report before in the past was based off of email or chat or texting or phone calls, etc. And for the most part now, those have all been unified. So there's one report and you just choose which sources you want the report to query against. How do I do that? At this very top where you see it say sources, when you click on that sources list, this will let you see a whole list of all the different sources that are available to you to be able to go in and choose. By default, it's going to select all of them, but as soon as I begin to select one or two of them, then you'll see in the background there at the top that number changing. So here you could go in and individually select, or if I said, I wanted every Facebook Messenger, I could just select all of those, or maybe every Telegram and every text and email and chat. You could go through and do that instead of having to manually select every single one of them. Whichever way you do it, though, whether you select them individually or if you go in and select them by group, here is that method of you being able to do that. So that's the biggest change, is that now each one of the reports that you see, you can now choose which source that report gives you the data for. So that's the big change, and that's across almost every one of these reports. So in addition to that, let me just spend a couple of minutes. If you're already fairly familiar with the reports, you may not learn a lot more new from the rest of this video. That's probably the big change that will get you up and running if you're not familiar with that already. Let me take just a few minutes, though, and highlight some of these reports in this video. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but let me just hit a few. The most advanced report, or kind of all-in-one report that I would recommend using, is this conversations report. From this report, I can pretty much see just about everything. I can see all of the conversations that happened during a particular time period. Of course, on this little demo account, there's two. Not very exciting there. But here I could see that list. Of course, remember, you can always export almost every report, the results of that, with this little download icon in the upper right-hand corner. I can, of course, filter by just typing in some additional data, and it would kind of, find that in the conversation and bring that up to the top. And then lastly, I can go in and do some advanced searches. So if I wanted to connect this to specific outcomes that happened, I could track that. So I could say, for this date range, which is up here at the top, and for these sources, show me all of them that had, and then again, remember, these outcomes are whatever your ministry's outcomes are. And there's lots of other ways that we can sort information that you see listed here, and then just simply hit apply to make those changes activated and show that in the area below. So that's the conversations report. You can do so much with that. You can also, of course, click on that conversation and see all of the information there. Go up and scroll up and see, all of the history around that conversation. You can even load the history, so you can really just very quickly get in and see what that conversation was about and what happened next. So fairly straightforward there. That's the conversations report. So conversation status and outcomes underneath conversations. Status and outcomes lets us see, of course, a lot of information about refer and flags and outcomes and the different statuses of conversations, where they're active or closed, and other kind of various states in between that. Another one that I want to bring your attention to is totals. This one is really neat because inside here we've got, of course, your lifetime totals for you as an organization, and this will show all the different conversation source types that you are actively using. So if you're not using Telegram, that's not going to show up on your list there. We can see our total conversations that happened during this time period. So this, of course, lifetime total is not affected by the date range, but this total conversation is. And this next one below, the organization KPIs, is also connected to the date range. So here we can see the number of unique clients, how many incoming and how many outbound messages, how many closed, how many countries are they coming from, and then what those outcomes are. And again, these would be your ministry's outcomes that you have listed here. And then below that, we just go ahead and tally that as a lifetime total. So remember, this is connected to the source. So now if I just want to see this organization's KPIs, but to do that just for one specific website that I have, then I could go in and just select that one site. So that way you can do that for each of the different pages or websites or phone numbers or any combination of those to tally those up in total. We have a map where you can go in and see if we're getting geolocation data. We can see that on a map. We can see hourly our incoming and outgoing messages in this demo account. There's not a lot of activity, but here you would normally see that going in and out. This helps you see how many conversations are coming in, what time of day they're coming in, and then what's their status, how many are open, how many are closed, timed out, and how many abandoned. If they were on chat, they started to chat and went away. Of course, with UTM tracking, you can choose that and then see exactly what, like Google AdWords or Facebook campaign you're using, how many visitors came to Echo, and then from that, how many people had a conversation on your website, as an example, and then what were the outcomes of those conversations. So now, inside of Echo, you can track how many dollars are spent that bring people to your page, and then do they give you the outcome that you want as a ministry and an organization. We have missed, details, spam, autoresponders, risk words. I mean, there's a lot of things in here that in this video, I don't have time to go through every single detail on all of these. Of course, for those of you using calls, we have a really robust call system, including a really fantastic live dashboard. Because we're not doing phone calls in this demo account, I'm not really sure it's going to be that compelling to show it to you. But here you could see the average call duration for the last hour, the last day, the last week, how long they were on hold, and what their answer rate was. We could see who's in the queue to be of your team of volunteers or responders, and who's calling in and how many people are connected. You get to watch this move around in live real time as you're watching it. It's a really fantastic report. And then we have heat maps where you can see things like all your claimed conversations. And so here we can see that it's not very exciting on this one because it's demo, it's mostly zeros. But here we could see at 10 p.m. on Friday, and at 2 p.m. on Thursday, and at 9 a.m. on Friday, here was some activity inside this demo account. And then lastly, of course, we have users' information. And so this is really exciting because you can get an overview of your users and what all they're actually doing inside the system. And then we can click on one of those users and it will load that information in for that particular date range. And it'll show you how many open conversations they have, what their outcomes were for the conversations based on these different conversation types. And then you can scroll down and you can even see a timeline where we have along this timeline these different periods of time where we could see that this particular user, as an example, and zoom in just a little bit, this user was logged in for about 2 hours on July 27th. And I can choose that little flag that's representing this timeline right here. So like this is a short timeline, and we can see exactly what they did. This particular user is not really great, right? They were logged in for 2 hours and sent 2 private messages. So we could see that. We could see that they were logged in for 15 minutes, this little tiny time right here, and they didn't really do anything during that time. So you can get an exact record of when your users are logged in, what they're doing, and what their activity is inside of demo. We can also see what computer they're using and their IP addresses they're using, and so much more inside here. Their permissions that they're connected to, and recent calls that they've done, and just all kinds of information about the user. And that's just one report. And I guess I should also mention, inside that timeline report, you can also go in and view a PDF. And if you do that, then you can see kind of a printable record of their activity that they've done, which is really useful if you're doing reviews with your team. And so that and so much more, what's their response time, how their performance is doing, is another great one where you could go in and load all the users, what their performance is, what they're up to inside the system here. It's not, again, not populated with data over here on the Echo side of things on this demo account, but this is where you would see that information there. So make sure and check out a lot of these. I think you'll find that they're super helpful for being able to kind of see what's happening. The last one I wanted to show you is the messages report. Here you could go in and choose your source. Maybe we'll just choose one source here and let this refresh the page. It'll reload that page, and it'll show us how many outbound messages, how many outbound comments, and the inbound message and comments, and then what those outcomes are. So this is a really great kind of tally of what each of your pages, whether that's a Facebook page or a text, each of your sources, I guess is a better word to use, how much conversation stuff happened inside that. How many messages came in, how many messages came out. So hopefully this is helpful to just kind of get a quick overview. There's obviously a lot of reports. What we're thinking we'll do in the future, break down these videos one by one of each of the report types and add that into the training system as well for you to be able to access. So select your sources, select your date range, and you can see all the information of what's happening inside of Echo. As always, if you have questions, please let us know. We would love to serve you. And if you're somebody that's interested in Echo, please go to echoglobal.org and just reach out to us there. And we would love to have a conversation with you, learn a little bit more about what you're doing with your ministry, see if Echo is a good fit. Thanks for watching.